Welcome to the Great Distraction.
Welcome back, everyone. This is The Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is train life, tales from the rails. My name is Ben. With me today are my co-hosts Joe,
Hey.
Thomas,
Hey.
and Glenn.
Howdy.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. We thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with, if nothing else, something to ponder. This episode is kind of special to us. We one of our buddy here, Glenn, decided to take on an endeavor in life. About 3 or 4 years ago, he started the whole process, and about 6 months ago, he got back. So it's all still fairly relative and fairly new to us and to him when he came back. He decided, of all things, to run off and join the circus. No, I mean not the circus.
Felt like it, though.
Yeah. It probably would have been a lot more fun. For sure.
To join the Union Pacific, which is the biggest railroad system we have here on the West Coast, and continues all the way over to Omaha, right? Yeah.
Omaha is the nexus. It's the
Okay.
central location. It's where everything is based out of.
Got it. Okay. But mostly, primarily, Union Pacific is West Coast tracks, right?
Right.
Okay. Got it. So this is it seems like a really random and odd topic to talk about, but as he was going through it, as he began the process, when he came back, the kind of stuff that he was telling us was just blowing me away, and all of us found it extremely interesting. It's kind of one of those things that not a lot of people, I would think, at least not a lot of people I grew up with, have any idea about, nor how it works. And the more we learned about listening to Glenn's experiences as he was going through it, was just like, this is nuts, dude. Like, I've never heard of anything that worked like this. And then the stories and the experiences that you gain out there were just too awesome. So I want to start it off by you going into how you decided to make this life decision to do this endeavor and to take this job on.
Well, really started some years back and looking around at different career paths, and came across train operation as a potential, and just the thought in the back of my mind, like, oh, that could be kind of cool. These guys seem to make some good money, and seems like an interesting experience.
It's got some perks, got pension and long
benefits,
been around
retirements,
and been around
You get to
forever.
ride in the front of the train instead of the back.
Right. Not in the boxcar anymore. So
Right. Moving on up.
But that kind of fell to the back of my mind and moved on, and life continued. And then one of my good friends from high school ended up getting a job with Union Pacific, and he kind of sold me on the idea of applying, and so I submitted an application, and that was kind of an interesting process.
Yeah, go into that. Okay, so
That was all online, though, right?
it was,
Okay.
and you submit an application, and then if your application gets chosen, they'll send you an email. You correspond with that, and they'll give you a reading comprehension test.
online, also online.
All
Is that
online.
important for train conductors?
It's pretty important for all the stuff you got to learn.
I mean, it's an easy test, and if you can't pass this test, you do not belong anywhere near heavy equipment.
Nice.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, not hard, but
Yeah.
Got
to make
it.
sure that
Was
you
it
actually
multiple
have
choice?
more than just a couple marbles in your head.
Still got a couple brain cells left you can rub together.
Right. And so after you pass this test, they'll put you back into consideration, and then send you a selection, or then they will extend an interview opportunity to you. And I got invited to an interview out of state, up in kind of the northeastern corner of Oregon, so right by Washington and Idaho. And so I drove up there, did the interview, drove back, got a call, and said, all right, class starts. When it starts. And then I relocated.
Yeah, and at that point, are you accepted into the program? I mean, you are for sure going to go through the whole training program, or is it just like a first step and then go back home? Or
for the interview, it was just
okay,
and then
so you just drove up there for a couple days or whatever for the interview. Okay,
drove up for the interview, then went back home, and then
got it. And waited to hear.
Then you wait to hear from them again.
Okay.
So now you're again waiting for a response.
Okay, so kind of like normal job so far.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
Except for driving 16 hours for the interview one way.
Well, I mean, anytime you're going to go for a job out of state or in another, area or whatever, you're going to have to fly out there or do whatever. So far, we're fairly common,
right.
I think.
And then once they approve, or if they then extend to you a job offer, you go in and do a physical fitness test, drug screen.
Sure. Because you're essentially a heavy equipment operator, so all the stuff that goes along with that.
You, for this position, you have to adhere to transportation regulations.
Oh.
So any sort of physical requirements required for like a truck driver or...
Okay, or bus driver maybe or something like that.
Anything where you're in the transportation department.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Got it. Okay, so and at this point you're still waiting. And
still waiting.
You get a call one day.
Right, and then they say, okay, well, you'll get another correspondent say your class starts on a specific date. Yeah. Then you do I think it was, forget the actual amount of time I was in school, but it was a few months.
I thought you told me it was like 6 months.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned it. I remember it was like 6 months, but it was a combination of classroom work and out in the yard physically doing stuff or whatever.
The first 2 weeks are just in classroom time.
Okay, so now you're actually living out there.
Yeah, so I've moved at this point.
And did any relocation compensation? I mean, did they give you nothing?
You hired on where you hired on.
That's your business to get out there, okay?
And now if they were to transfer you to someplace else, then you could...
Once you were already employed.
Right.
Yeah. So this is when you were staying in the truck out there for a bit, right? Because it took you some time to figure out a place to stay and rent a room or whatever you were doing. Okay. So you're out there, you're starting your training work. What was the training stuff like? I mean, was it brutal? Yeah. Was it boring? Was it...
Personally, I found it a little tedious and repetitive.
They're trying to beat into you.
You have to memorize this fat book of rules.
Okay.
And it's federal law. I mean, so there's...
Just like OSHA type rules, or is this like...
Yeah.
Just specific to the railroad, or...
Specific to the railroad.
Okay, got it.
They call it the G-Corps.
G-Corps, wow.
General Code of Operating Practices.
Okay. That
makes sense. These rules are constantly being updated. There's multiple sections for train handling, air brakes, mechanical.
Constantly being updated. I mean,
yeah.
Is that based on lawsuits from people getting in accidents, or is that, because the equipment doesn't change that much, right?
The equipment hasn't changed in 100 years.
So it's just got to be with people bringing new stupidity to the...
They dying in new ways.
Yeah. Exactly. They say that the rules in that book are written in blood.
Oh, wow.
What was your favorite rule, if you have one that you can recall?
Man.
Or the most ridiculous.
My personal favorite one was no walking backwards.
No walking backwards.
Yeah, you can get fired for taking a step backwards.
On the train?
Nope, anywhere on the property.
Wow.
It's like in the parking lot going to your truck.
Yep. Not kidding.
I don't even know where to go with that.
Well, wow. I understand where this rule came from.
What about when you sit down on the toilet? That's kind of...
Can't do it. Nope. If they catch you doing that, man, you're in deep shit.
So you had to poop standing up?
You have to approach the bowl forward. Right. Then rotate.
Exactly.
Slide in at an angle.
Nice.
So when you're in a yard and they have what they call like a hump yard, which it's basically a hill where they'll send cars sailing down without any power. They'll just cut them off and let them roll.
Wow.
And there's an automatic switch that will designate what track these cars go into.
Okay.
So it's for sorting out the train and, because things come from one spot and they'll hit a yard and they split up to a bunch of different locations.
Oh.
So to reorganize these trains and to designate where these cars go, they run through the hump.
Cool.
But cars by themselves, when they're rolling, they are silent. when you hear a car go by a rail, what you are hearing is the gap in the rail and the movement of the car hitting seams. It's not the car rolling. The bearings are super well lubricated. When they're going, you don't hear them.
Wow.
So, and these tracks are 4 or 5 feet apart.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're down working on something and you step backwards, there could be a car coming down that you are unaware of.
Oh, wow.
And
Got it.
if you were to step backwards, you can step into a moving.
The sorting tracks you're talking about
Right,
are 4 or
right.
5 feet away.
So
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
basically, it's a
that's
safety
dangerous.
thing. But
Sure.
That's dangerous.
probably the only
yeah.
way to really get everybody to comply is just to beat it into you like a freaking
Right.
hammer.
Make it a rule.
So
Well,
make it a rule, and then nowhere on the property can you take a step backwards because somebody somewhere stepped backwards into a moving object.
yeah. And
Bummer.
very slowly got crunched.
I don't
now-
know about slowly, but
Is that train? Are those cars that as they're rolling? Do they roll fast?
4 miles an hour usually.
Okay, it's quick enough to sneak up on you. That's for sure.
If it's moving at 4 miles, all right, so figure 145 tons moving at 4 miles an hour. You step in front of that,
Oh boy.
it's
Wow.
enough to kill you.
Jeez.
So now do you find yourself not stepping backwards in your daily life?
Dude, I celebrate stepping backwards.
That's my favorite thing to do.
Every time he's like, F you, Union Pacific. I'm backing this motherfucker up.
That makes me think there's a guy who runs the Capitol pretty much every other day, and he runs backwards. He jogs the thing backwards. He's super skinny, super in shape, a little older. Maybe
He's really mad at the train.
and he carries weights, and he runs backwards all around the Capitol every day. And that makes me think.
You sure he doesn't have his clothes on different or something?
Yeah, maybe he was a previous train worker.
It could be.
Nice. Okay, so you're going through this training education. I imagine you're getting bombarded with many other rules and regulations. After you consume all of that and memorize all of that, you hopefully eventually get to your first days of work. Well, okay. Let me take a step back real quick. You had mentioned that there were several furloughs that you were put through, and I was wondering how that is that after the training and education is complete.
Yes.
Okay, so you spend all your time going through this training program, 6 months. And then, sorry, buddy, there's really no job for you right now.
Yep.
This is like the police academy. I've known so many guys who have dropped their $35,000 going through the police academy, only to
What?
come out and there's no guaranteed jobs.
You have
after
to pay that to go?
Oh yeah,
Really?
yeah. Some people get their.
I thought you got paid because
No,
it's taking up your day like a job.
only if you
Or
happen to
training
work
thing.
in some job that is in law enforcement or law enforcement related, and they say, okay, we're ready to promote you and we want to keep you, but you need to go through the police academy and to become an LEO of some sort of peace officer or whatever. Then they will pay for you to go. But everybody else, like if you and I with no law enforcement background decide I want to be a cop someday or one day, you'd go through the academy, pay all your money, come out with debt if you don't have the cash,
Jesus.
and you got nothing. And I know 3 guys personally who went through it, paid over $30,000, never got a job out of it, even though they
Wow.
graduated top of their class, and well, one of them didn't, but the other 2 did.
Wow.
And never did nothing came of it. So yeah, the guys who get the jobs are the
Jesus.
ones who are getting paid by their company and whatever. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the topic there. Okay, so you've gone through the training, you're ready to go, you're educated up, and
So
Awaiting assignment.
So you finish your training stint, your classroom period's done, your on-the-job training is wrapped up, and then for me personally, when it was time for me to mark up, which is to put yourself on the board and take your own train, there was no positions available because it's all seniority based. So I got cut off for a year and a month.
Wow.
So came back to California, hung out here for a while, got another job, then got a phone call saying, "Hey, come back to work."
a year and a month.
Wow.
I just wanted to say that again.
Yeah.
Like a whole year. I mean, you think you're going to do something and you go out there and you're into it. You're in depth in this for 6 months because you're living out there and this is all you're doing.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, boom, dude, you're going home. Thanks
Yeah,
for
no-
coming.
No notice, just
But we didn't say you are being paid for your training and education part.
yes.
So you're not like wasting 6 months of your life, basically.
You're getting paid $10 an hour
Oh, man.
to go through the training.
So they're not willing to invest that much in you anyway because for all they know, you're never going to see you again after this.
they actually plan on only keeping 20% of their hires
Wow.
because they have these practices where they cut off and
It's a total
furlough
weeding
and-
out.
Yeah, it is.
It's a total weeding
So-
out. Wow.
They get a tax break for hiring X amount of people.
Oh, how nice.
They only plan on keeping about 20% of their hires. So he's like, yeah, no, they're not going to pay you much while they're training you.
Wow.
It was enough for me to, survive.
Sure, out there,
but-
it's probably real cheap because it's rural or whatever.
Wow.
But
So, the second question: when they call you back after you've been gone for a year, do you have to have any sort of refresher course or anything?
So
It's been a year since you've read that book.
Yep, I had to go do a 2-week refresher course in Portland.
Okay.
When I came back before I can actually go to work.
got it. Wow. And then the real job starts. So year and month goes by. You get the call back. You move back up there again.
Right.
And try and find a place to stay temporarily, then try and find a place to stay more permanently. The real job starts. Describe let's talk about a typical workday so that we can get an idea of what, how this works.
Well, I was going to say, before they start that, so what is your title at this point?
Conductor.
Conductor.
Yeah. So you were telling us there's only 2 people on the train.
Right. There's a conductor and an engineer.
Okay.
The engineer is the one who's actually operating the locomotive.
Got
The
it.
conductor is the one who is technically in charge, but not really.
Got it. In charge of repairs and keeping the thing functioning.
When shit goes down, you're responsible.
Oh,
So that's what your job was.
Yes.
Okay.
the scapegoat.
Fall guy.
Fall guy.
Fall guy.
That's right. Meat shield fall guy. Oh,
Totally.
boy. Okay, so let's start off with a work week. What days do you work? Where do you show up? Where do you report to? How does this? You wake up in the morning. What happens?
If I wake up in the morning and I wasn't woken up by a phone call, I'm waiting or doing something until my phone rings.
You're on call
You are on call.
and not being paid for it.
Oh, no.
Not being paid for it. So you're
No.
on call with no on-call pay.
Right. So, well, it depends on what board you're working on. Because everything that they do, there's a train board, right? So they have a schedule of trains planned, and if you are on a certain section, right, so you're running from this city to this city, you're on a pool, right? So it's a rotation. So once you complete your trip and come back, you go to the bottom of the board and work your way up. There's also an extra board, which is the fill board, right? So when somebody calls out in sick, say, "Hey, I'm not gonna be here."
Backup.
They pull from this other board to fill that slot so that it doesn't change what people below you on your pool turn. It doesn't change what they're expecting or when they're expecting you to go to work.
Okay.
So the extra board fills in the slots. The pool turn, you have a rough idea of when you're going to work based on current train schedule.
So you really don't know.
No,
mean,
it's
Every day
you've got a rough guess.
Rough guess. Oh, geez.
Rough guess that can swing by 2 days in time.
Wow.
Like I can look at the board at 3:00 in the morning and say, "Oh, well, cool! I should go to work tomorrow."
Would you like log into a website to do this? Or?
Yes.
Okay. So it's all online.
Yeah. So I'll look and say, "All right, I should have most of a day." Go to sleep. 3 hours later, my phone rings.
Okay.
Or I could be like, "Oh, I should be going to work in about an hour." 12 hours later, my phone still hasn't rung.
Okay.
So it totally screws up your ability to make any plans.
And that's one thing.
Or have any sort of life, really, huh?
Right.
Outside of the rail.
That's one thing we're going to emphasize from multiple angles here as we proceed. That's one thing I want the listeners to take away is that this is like worse than military. I mean, you're completely owned.
Oh, totally. And that's the way they want you.
Yeah.
But so to answer your other question, my day starts with a phone call.
Okay. And so let's say you get the phone call, you're called in. Where do you go?
So my phone rings. I have a depot that I'm working out of, so a train station. And when I get the phone call, I have about an hour and a half to get my happy little butt to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I can be a phone call at any hour of the day, 24/7,
Jeez.
365 days a year.
Okay.
No holiday pay, nothing like that. If you get
Okay.
called on Christmas, you're working on Christmas.
That's it.
So so I show up at work.
Okay, so you're in your hour and a half. One of the things I wanted to ask you too, how do you handle food or what do you bring with you? Because we had go ahead. Yeah.
So
How do you plan for your day?
you plan on bringing food for 3 days.
3 days
3 days
for one.
for one trip.
Oh boy.
So, and the reason behind this, where I was working, I was traveling from La Grande, Oregon to Nampa, Idaho, which is right by Boise. So I get on the train. I have a train trip there, which can be anywhere from 6 hours to unknown amount of time, depending upon the weather and traffic. The longest I sat on the train was 26 hours.
Jeez.
On one trip.
Just one setting?
Yes. One way. One trip.
Is that in constant motion, or did something hold you up?
There was a snowstorm, wind advisory. They shut down stuff.
Wow.
Snow drifts came in. They couldn't get cars to pick us up. So we sat on the train for more.
So how many people were sitting on this train?
Me and the engineer.
Did you like the guy?
No, the dude was an ass.
Let's take another. Okay, what can
Awesome.
you? I wanted you to talk about what you could bring on the train, because when you're sitting, emphasis on this, when you're sitting here for 26 hours, what are you even allowed to bring with you?
Okay, so in the rules laid out, there is an explicit no electronics policy. So I can have, while I'm on the train, my cell phone or my tablet or whatnot, as long as it is off and stowed, so powered down and packed in my bag. I can't pull it out inside the locomotive at all. It's like a $30,000 fine.
Whoa.
It's serious no-no.
Yeah, because they don't want you to be distracted. Something happened, and all of a sudden they get blamed on that. And now they're
look at
in a lawsuit.
the Amtrak wrecks where they say that somebody was texting before they went off, even though that was totally a cover. There was a couple years back an Amtrak accident where it killed like 45 people.
Jeez.
And there was a text response, immediately from the engineer before the crash, and the message was it was a suicide note from the engineer to his ex.
Oh wow!
So he hit the accelerator and said, "Fuck it, I'm killing everybody." And
wow.
but
that was the one in L.A.
It was
I
the
was
one.
living- I was living down there.
It was the one in L.A.
Yeah, I was in San Fernando somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the media spin was cell phone use and distraction, when it didn't relate to it at all. That wasn't the reason for the accident.
What
but
the
that
hell
was
was that text
that
message?
was,
Yeah, you know how many-
that was how it was spun. So federal regulation states after this incident that any electronic usage is super finable.
Wow. Do you
So-
know anyone who got fined?
Is that on the honor system?
No, it is on a. They have a. We called it the cell sniffer.
Oh, you're kidding.
So in the locomotive, in the breaker panel, there is actually a wireless detector. So it will
Looks for 2.4 gigahertz
Exactly.
or cellular activity.
It looks for
Wow.
cellular activity. It looks for Bluetooth activity, and it will ping a notice to our manager. They'll call and stop the train, and they will search us.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh! You had never mentioned that before. That's
we have
crazy.
also to work there. You have to sign a agreement that allows the company to to look through your phone records, so they can pull up your records to look to see if there was any network activity coming from one of your devices while you were on shift.
Wow.
So if they suspect it, if a detector goes off, they will actually pull up your shit and come down on your ass.
Wow.
So I mean, it was
We didn't talk about that before. That's crazy.
yeah. So
Wow.
no electronics.
Do you know anyone who broke the rule?
Yes.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Do they fire you too?
Oh, yes.
They fire you and you walk away with a fat fine.
Well, so the fine is from the FRA.
The federal regulation thing.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
So the company will not issue a fine, but the FRA will. So if the company catches you, it's an end of your job.
You're fired and terminated.
If the FRA catches you, you're fucked.
Oh my goodness.
So you
'Cause-
could get fired for that, but they don't necessarily. It doesn't
You know,
pop up
the
on their
company,
radar.
if the company's covering their ass by terminating your employment,
Yeah.
if the FRA catches you, you're fired and fined.
Got
Okay.
it.
So you could
Wow.
potentially just get fired if you're lucky.
Sure.
And yeah, unless they turn you over. Or,
So, and you know, there are FRA people that come and test and will get on your train
Are they like secret shoppers?
Kind of.
They're not that secret because there's only 3 people on the train at that point.
Yeah,
but-
well,
Who's this other guy?
They do. So the management will run.
I've been here 4 years. What day is it?
Oh man, they do stop tests. So they'll put down a red flag on the rail, and make sure that you're paying attention, that you are aware and come to a stop before you hit this sign. Otherwise, they'll pull your license and pull you out of work.
What?
So
That's
not
your
only
secret
are you-
shopper.
right? Now, not only are you paying attention to everything else that's going on, you're trying to look for this little, sneak up, catch you doing something.
Yes.
Scarf laying on the tracks kind of thing.
Totally. Sometimes they'll put a little flashlight down. They'll throw a flare on the side and make sure that you follow everything that you are supposed to do as outlined by the rules.
Wow.
Whoa.
So they are very
They're not
very micromanagey, and
yeah,
they're
sounds like it.
constantly watching their employees. And there's this employee versus manager mentality, where the employees are like, "Fuck you guys, because you guys are fucking with us all day long. We're just trying to work and do our job, and
Yeah.
you guys are telling us
Yeah. All these ridiculousness.
right." And
So, okay, so
All right.
so we got
Sorry.
kind of got off on that 10. No,
Wow.
that was good. We had not discussed that kind of stuff. You had never mentioned stuff like that before. But going back to, okay, so you're stuck 26 hours here. You've got stowed and powered off and stowed electronics.
right,
More than likely, you're in a place where there's no cell phone reception anyway.
correct.
During those circumstances, when you're stuck out there, snowstorm or accident or whatever it be, can you pull out the electronics then, or
Nope.
Because you're on the
Because
train,
you
right?
are because I am on that train. I am securing that property.
so 26 hours you're sitting there?
Bored off my ass.
Jeez, can
Looking
you
at the snow.
get off the train?
If there is somebody in the cab, yes.
If
So-
there's okay, so somebody has to remain in there just in case something happens.
Right.
I mean, I'm thinking, can you bring a 22 and take pot shots off the side?
Oh no.
I kind of doubt you can
Having
have guns with you. On
having
the
anything that can be classified as a weapon is
No
against the rules.
slingshot or no?
Nope.
What do you do?
Dude, twiddle your thumbs. You appreciate that 3-day meal lunchbox you brought with you.
Yeah, eat.
Wow.
That's what most people do.
Wow.
So, as
Brutal.
you can imagine, there is a serious weight and health issue with this job because you are sitting around, you are bored off your ass.
On your
And-
ass.
On your ass.
Well, when that brings up a question for me is, okay, so the inside of a train, like I've never been inside of that style of train. Or do you call it an engine? Or first of all, what do we call
it's a
that?
locomotive.
A locomotive.
It's an engine, power.
Okay. So when you're in
SD70.
when you're in this cabin and there's only 2 of you there, I mean, what's the place look like? I mean, is it a tiny little box? Is it
Okay,
do you have real seats?
that's debatable.
Is there a wet bar?
So, your typical locomotive road engine. This isn't a switching engine that they use in the yard. Your average power that runs back and forth. There's a ladder in the front. You climb onto the nose. There's a door in the front that swings open. You come through that door, and there's this little cavity that holds. There's a metal box with tools, spare hoses, fuses,
Spare parts.
fusees, which are
Some
flares,
zip ties.
flares, pretty much.
Duct tape.
So in this little metal cavity that's about 4 feet by 5 feet ish box, and then there's another door, and the next door opens up into the cab. So you enter the cab, and immediately to your right there's the bathroom, which is freaking tiny. It's about my shoulder width wide as far as the door. It goes straight in, little metal seat. It's a mess. You don't ever want to use it, but I guarantee you will at some point if you work on this job.
Oh boy.
It's nasty. It's nasty.
Yeah, you were saying they don't really clean them; they just empty the bucket out at a stop or whatever, and somebody reluctantly does so and doesn't do anything more than that.
It's bad.
Wow.
So that's the toilet, and then there's like 3 steps that ascend up into the cab, and that's where the seats are. So once you get into the cab, there's usually 3 chairs, and either there's 2 chairs on the right hand or on the left hand side. I'm sorry. So you've climbed up these stairs, and to your right, but it is
The left side of
it
the
would be
train.
the left side of the cab.
The driver's side.
Okay.
If you are in an American car, your driver's side is the conductor's side, and that is not where the control panels are.
Oh, okay.
So they're on the right. Okay.
So yes, they're European.
Yeah.
So you've got 2 chairs on the conductor side, usually one in front of the other, and the back seat sucks because there's no legroom. And sometimes you get stuck with 3 people in there when there's somebody training. And
man. Wow.
It's like that back seat on the plane.
It is.
It doesn't recline.
And
pretty much.
And there's
it's right by the bathroom.
There is technically a 4th seat, which is a little 10-inch by 8-inch piece of wood that's got a little bit of a foam pad that folds up against the wall that you can pull down and kind of sort of sit on.
It's like a writing pad.
Wow.
Yeah, super comfy.
Wow.
And that's usually right by the engineer's chair.
How do you sit in those chairs for hours on end like that all day? I mean,
Well, that was another question too. I was like, is it a comfortable chair?
No.
Is it a nice chair? Is it a
So,
bar stool?
All right.
I mean,
So if you have the
apparently they seem to cut corners. I'm thinking it's just like a crate.
Union Pacific is notorious about doing as little as possible for their employees. That includes chairs. They use these flimsy-ass plastic black chairs that's horribly uncomfortable.
On the train.
On the train. Companies like BNSF, which they run up in the Pacific Northwest as far as like the Western, and they run Central and East. They've got these really nice brown chairs that like recline back, and you can actually like lay down in them. And
wow,
some nice chairs.
Dang,
they actually take care of their employees a little bit.
It's the envy of every Union Pacific worker.
Oh, dude. So
okay.
Wow.
Depends on the company.
So it's uncomfortable. It sucks. It's small. It's totally not convenient in any sort of modern way.
Oh no. There's
no USB plugs anywhere.
No, there's not. There's an ice box.
An ice box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
you have to
like
bring
an actual refrigerator, or
no,
pieces of ice?
I'm talking about an ice box.
A real
like
ice
a
box.
metal box with insulation that you bring ice into to keep some waters or something cold for a little while until it melts.
Not even a refrigerator.
Not even a refrigerator.
Okay, and as we're going, and I'm assuming there's no way to heat up food either, no microwave.
No.
Okay. Now, as we're going through this, an interesting point I wanted to make that you had told me about. You're sitting inside of a massive electric generator,
right?
That has a diesel engine which creates the electricity, a massive diesel engine that creates electricity, and a huge air compressor for the brake lines. Right. That was what. And is the air used for anything else? Just out of randomness.
Your horn.
Which is no joke because I knew a guy who took one of those off of there and put it in his SUV, and it was insane. He had a separate compressor for that thing, and he fired it off and tied it outside of a warehouse one time, and the walls shook. That was insane.
Nice. Oh, those horns are no joke.
Yeah,
I've been standing outside in front of one of those things when those go off, and it'll make your ears bleed.
It took like 45 seconds to charge that thing up with his little compressor, and it would shoot it off. It was nuts. But anyway, so. All this power, and you can't have a single electronic modern convenience at all. Not
even a coffee maker.
You're not even allowed to read a book.
Wow. I believe that because it's distracting.
Right.
Okay, so Thomas just brought up that. What about coffee? Is there a coffee maker?
Nope.
No coffee.
Now, in the Canadian Pacific, there is a tea kettle with a hot plate.
Tea kettle. At least that's something.
It's in their union agreement for up in Canada that they have to be able to warm up tea.
Tea time, huh?
Not Union Pacific.
Wow.
So anyway, although there are these things on the side wall of the cab, little heaters, which we get creative with.
Okay.
And we'll throw together like a burrito, wrap it in tinfoil, crank up that sidewall heater, and use that as a little
This is starting to sound like prison stories.
Oh, dude. So Hot Pockets, burritos, anything like that you can wrap up.
What powers that? Those heaters? Is it electricity or is it propane?
I think it's electricity.
Okay. Weird.
Doesn't make sense for it to be anything but electric.
That's horrible, and that's to keep you guys from freezing
right
to death when you're in the middle of the mountains.
When there is literally 6 feet of snow around you and.
Jeez,
it's -10 out.
And so when that happens, the train is able to cut its own path, right? It just
it blows through,
plows through the snow like nothing. Wow, that's amazing.
You got to consider that
in the front.
A locomotive weighs over 200 tons.
Jeez, and that's
just a single locomotive.
Just a locomotive.
You have
Wow.
you have so much weight on those things that
No problem. Okay, so we'll get more into what the weight can do as it's rolling down the rails there. Talk a little bit about, just real briefly, two people, what is a working relationship like on the road with these people?
Well, you either got some guy who's a total prick, someone who's silent, someone who wants to talk your ear off, or on the very rare occasion, you actually get somebody that you can make friends with.
Wow.
In my experience working up there for 3 years, there were like 5 guys that I could really stand sitting around and chatting with.
Yeah.
Most of the times, I just put my earplugs in and ignored the other guy.
Wow. Earplugs, so you're just listening to nothing.
Nothing.
Listening to your heartbeat.
Silence.
No, and I do that because the railroaders are worse than housewives. Gossip is all there is to keep us entertained. So what do? We bitch.
Talk smack.
We talk shit. We bitch about each other. We bitch about the managers. We bitch about the company. We bitch about this, bitch about that.
Yep.
I don't particularly like listening to people bitch.
Yeah.
It gets old.
Sounds like government work.
So when you get an engineer or a conductor, if you are an engineer, that just starts
Going off.
and because you are a forced audience,
Yeah, what are you going to do?
I'm stuck in the box with this guy. I can't get away from him for however long I'm on this train.
I can see how some would go with the prick route, right? Because they're like, you know what? I don't want to hear anything you have to say because I'm not going to like it. So I'm going to act like I'm mean and I don't like you, so you won't talk to me.
Exactly. So earplugs.
Wow.
So literally, they start talking. I grab my earplugs and I stuck it in and I look out the window like that.
Oh, jeez.
And,
But I mean, if you weren't wearing earplugs, is it loud in that environment?
inside the cab, it's not.
Okay.
There's noise insulation on the roof and sidewalls and multiple pane glass on the windows. They're pretty much bulletproof because we get shot at.
You had mentioned
You get
that.
shot at?
Yes.
They have to be bulletproof. People actually shoot at this thing.
Yeah, they do. No joke.
Wow. Did anybody shoot at you when you were in train?
Personally, no, but I've definitely seen bullet marks on the windows.
Wow.
Wow. Like
Those little divots that when the glass pops out in that
Yeah.
little circle because somebody shot it. Yep.
Wow.
Rednecks,
what,
man.
right? So that brings up an interesting point because trains are obviously something that could be a target for terrorism and things like that.
Sure.
Did you guys have any sort of training on like if
Oh,
somebody was
yeah.
to do something to the train
Totally.
or try to attack not like you're going to ride up on a horse like they
So-
used to and jump on the Mel train.
When a train is first put together and it's going to be departing the station for its first time, right? It has just been assembled. Air is being sent back to it. We have to do a air test and inspection. So we've got to walk the entire train, looking at valve settings.
Okay. How long are trains? Before you can, sorry to interrupt you on that. I just wanted to.
It depends on the train. Average train today that I was taking was around 8,000 feet.
That's like a mile and a half, over a mile and a half long.
Yes, and that's average to small. Like
Whoa.
So when you got to walk the train, that's no joke. That's a long.
It's I mean,
stretch.
I've let's see, the longest train I've been on was 16,000 feet long.
16,000?
So 5,280.
So
5,280.
that's like
That's
little
over
over.
3 miles.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Did you have to walk that one?
I did not.
Nice.
No, that was coming in from Idaho in, and then it got split up to be taken over the mountain.
Wow.
They can take on flat ground. You know, you can run a giant train.
Wow.
You know, as long as it's not being pulled around curves and
Yeah.
all that.
Wow.
But yeah, no, some insane lengths.
That's crazy.
So the train your first trainer it goes out of whatever you're walking checking. So what do you want? You're checking what connections between each car or
I'm
something?
looking and listening for air leaks. Listening for those mostly because you can't really see an air leak.
Yeah.
But checking valve settings on the cars.
Each individual car.
Each individual car. I'm looking at brake shoes. I'm looking at springs. I'm checking to see if there's anything hanging, sagging, dragging.
Some of them don't look right.
Right. and then I'm looking for anything that's not supposed to be there.
Like hobos having sex in a boxcar.
That is a memory I don't need to relive.
All right, you've seen it? Nice.
You have seen this?
Oh, dude.
People still ride the train like that?
People still ride the train like that.
Naked
Wow.
with each other?
Was this a guy and a girl?
So, in the
There was a giraffe, a monkey,
this
and,
gay
a,
hobo
and a
sex?
little boy.
There's a real issue with homeless getting into the cabs of the locomotives and getting it on board.
In the other locomotive.
Yeah.
Not your locomotive, the other ones.
Not the one on the head,
Yeah.
but any of the ones on the inside.
Really?
There are...
That would make more sense if they were on in the head.
So there are cameras that we have installed in... Oh, yeah, we're on camera the entire time we're in there, by the way.
Oh,
we are being
okay.
recorded.
That makes
so
sense.
Of course.
all under surveillance.
Wow.
So we've reviewed footage, and you come across hobo sex.
Nice.
Wow.
It's a thing.
Okay, wait. Take a step back real quick.
You
Before
want
we-
to hear more
before
about
we
the
get
hobo
into-
sex?
I bet that smells terrible.
Oh,
Dude, you have no idea.
Okay, before we go into the hobo sex, how is the data for this video transmitted to
Wirelessly, it's uploaded on satellite.
Oh, it's satellite. Okay, so that was going to say, because if you have the wireless sniffer thing going off, how are they getting the data off of there and not tripping that with that? But if there's a satellite connection, that's a different frequency, so it's ignoring that. Okay, so continue with the hobo sex.
Yeah. So your managers can pull up live video of you in the train while you're rolling,
Or hobos.
or hobos.
Only in the locomotives, right?
And yeah,
There's no cameras in any of the cars.
there's no cameras in the cars. There are cameras facing outward and inward on the locomotives.
Oh,
So they can look up and down the train, basically.
Right.
Kinda.
Can
Okay.
they see this, like the side of the tracks, like an approach, like if somebody were trying to ride alongside or whatever, would they catch that or no?
Not so much.
Okay, just the train top.
Right.
Okay.
So there's a camera on the side facing out, so they can assess an accident or damage to see
Okay.
what happened.
Got it.
Um,
Got it. Okay, so
Wow.
continue with the daily tasks. That was
all right.
what we
So-
were trying to do there. So you're doing your checks.
Uh,
Yeah, you're like walking the shit. I was when you were talking about this before, when we had a small conversation before, I was trying to figure out. So if you're in the front of the train, the head, I like that word, and you have to walk the train to check it, are you basically walking down one side
And then-
turning around and walking back up the other side?
back, exactly. So walking down one side and then back up the other side.
Okay.
Wow.
So is that the only way you'd be able to see somebody who's train hopping?
Unless I catch them in a mirror.
Okay.
Or we get a call from some citizen that is trying to be a goody-goody. And
That-
A train enthusiast?
Tell us
a-
about the train enthusiast, because
Oh,
that's
you-
part of
you
your
mean the
daily life.
foamers?
The foamers. That's
Foamers.
these guys
Explain this.
are no joke.
Explain what a foamer is.
Train enthusiasts.
We're not talking about the guy who has a H train at home. That's not who we're talking about.
The
right?
model train. No,
Model.
we're,
Oh, they might.
they probably do.
Well, yeah, that's where it starts. That's the gateway drug,
In their closet. They're closeted.
right?
So
the
we-
H
we-
train in the closet. That's what starts this whole thing.
These there are people that are railroad enthusiasts that will photograph locomotives or trains in general, and there are people that get in their vehicles and they'll scope out spots, and then we'll come rolling through, and they'll be out there with a camera taking pictures of us, and then we'll go right by. They'll hop up in the car, bolt ahead of us, and get out again and start taking photos of us and follow us for miles, just taking pictures. So
Just to
Interesting.
shoot pictures of the
Interesting
train.
hobby.
just to take pictures of the train, and then they want to call, and if we're doing anything.
So do you ever wave to
They'll-
these
they'll-
guys?
they'll-
flip
wait,
them off?
Oh yes,
They'll call on you.
Yeah, flip them off.
I
Can you get in
don't.
film?
I don't flip them off, but I will wave at them. I'll open up the window and
With-
kind of stick my head out and wave,
With
just to
all
put my
fingers down except that one.
So you mentioned you were representing the company,
Right.
so you can't really you
So
can't hang your ass
can't-
cheeks
I
out
can't-
when you
I
drive
can't
by.
moon them. I can't.
That would be so tough to
Oh,
not do that.
man.
Oh, dude. But
Yes.
it'll really piss them off if you put your face in their photo. they just want to see the train.
They're not
They
interested
don't
in
want
you.
to see my mug. So
imagine how-
I'll open the window and stick my head out and be like, "Hi." And,
Awesome.
Man, imagine
and-
how they'd feel if you were just hanging dong. That'd be an awesome picture.
Oh, that'd be an awesome experience.
Could just get a giant fake dong to hang out the window when they come by. I bet if you ran that through the union steward, he might approve it.
Oh, that'd be great.
So, do you ever get any? Okay, so that's a bad thing about the public just looking at you or whatever.
Damn foamers.
Do you ever get any flashers?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
How do they do that? They're driving along the road that happens to be along the railroad.
The route that I was on, we went right over the Snake River and through some waterways where during the summer people are out there partying and you get a couple girls that have some drinks and
really,
dude, they'll totally flash you.
That's the highlight of the week, huh?
Fuck yeah, that's the highlight of the year out there.
After a 26-hour day in the snow, sitting in that cab with Bubba, seeing some boobies would be like heaven.
And not Bubba's boobies.
Yeah, not those.
Jeez.
Oh man.
Okay, so as you go back to your check here, as you're going down, you're checking all the equipment, brake lines. You were saying wheels, any connection points, whatever.
Yeah.
When you find something wrong, what happens?
I fix it.
You fix it.
I mean, it depends on what's wrong.
Yeah. What you have spare parts for? Or?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's an air hose, we've got a spare air hose on the locomotive.
Okay.
If it's brake line something, if it's something that I can fix with tools on hand, I'll fix it.
Okay.
I will not go in between the tracks or under a car. Fuck that. That is somebody else's job.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go in between the cars too, because now what's that thing called in the middle that actually hooks them together?
It's called a knuckle.
And now those move a lot because the train's moving back. Like that would squish you.
So the drawbar is the big piece, and then the knuckle is the actual clamp that closes
like a 60, like a yin yang, right?
Right.
Okay.
So that portion is the knuckle, the part that actually closes and holds.
So does it open mechanically and then close down?
Right. So
I always thought it was like one of those things where you kind of it went out of the way and then hooked.
There's actually a pin that holds it closed, and you can pull a lever and pulls up the pin, and then the knuckle will open up, and it stays open until something comes and clips the inside of it. And when it clips on the inside, it pulls it closed again, and then the pin drops to secure it.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Interesting.
Oh.
So
you're checking all those pins and everything like that as well.
You don't get in between the trains.
Fuck that.
Well, I mean, but aren't they limited?
Right. So I have the rule states that there has to be 100-foot separation in between cars to be able to step in between to do work.
Oh, really? So there's no hopping over the link or the.
I can climb up the ladder, get a red zone, which is a company rule regulation about passing in between equipment or being in a space where
like a lockout tagout type thing or something.
Yeah,
okay,
it's a safety procedure.
Got it.
So and then I can climb up the ladder, cross along the path, then back down. But it's not leaning over the drawbar or getting into a pitch point. And if you're on the ladder or on these spaces, even if the cars were moving, you could still technically do it safely. But rule state has to be stopped.
Don't do it. Got it.
And don't back up. Don't walk backwards.
So the red zone is a communication between the engineer and the conductor, where the engineer puts the locomotive into a neutral position, so and sets the air. So applies brakes, centers the reverser so that the train can't move forward or backwards, and they have to get their hands off the console.
Got it.
Until I clear them of that, they're not supposed to touch anything.
So the air brakes are on every single car of the train, right?
Yes.
Okay, so everything has brakes.
Everything's locked down.
So so now what happens if you find something that broken that you can't fix?
I make a phone call, not a phone call, a radio. I radio the dispatch, say, hey, I got this problem. I'm going to need someone to come out and fix it. And I sit my happy ass back and wait for it to get fixed.
And wait.
Wow. And depending on where you're at, that could be a 12-hour wait probably.
Oh, that could be, yes.
Wow. Yeah, because if you're in the middle of nowhere or someplace they can't get or whatnot.
Or
there's no auto zone anywhere nearby.
Jeez. And do they, when they send something out there, if there's a road nearby, fine, or do they drive those trucks that have the rails underneath them to get out there with equipment?
The high rails are used for maintenance.
On the track?
On the track.
Oh, on the track. Okay, not for the trains. So how do they get you equipment to fix stuff if you're in a tunnel or in a mountain pass or someplace that there's not really roads to?
I mean, it really depends on what the problem is.
Okay. Too many different situations to. Will they ever airlift equipment to you? I mean, if it's not accessible via a vehicle.
I mean, I can't imagine a situation that you get in where you need to have something airlifted.
Okay.
We've had air extractions to switch crews out.
Really?
Yeah.
Based on an injury or just
no.
Just because it was like a remote location.
Blizzard.
Oh.
You're on the train. It's been like day and a half. You know, we had a crew up there for they were on the train for 36 hours.
Whoa.
And there was no perceived relief or time for them to get these guys off there. So they brought in
The helicopter.
helicopter to pull them off the train.
That's insane.
Wow. So do those guys get paid for all that time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, like,
yeah.
your 12 hours is up, dude. We'll get to you when you can.
Right.
Wow.
That would be a very small incentive to stay on the train.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Going crazy.
how do they how do you handle because we kind of mentioned overtime or whatever. I imagine overtime clicks over, you just keep getting paid.
So there's a hours of service regulations.
Okay.
And you've got 12 hours that you can work. After that 12 hours, you are dead on hours, and you stop what you're doing and sit around with the thumb up your ass until somebody pulls you off that train. Once you hit that 12-hour mark,
And you're not being paid for that?
you are.
You are.
You are now getting paid overtime.
But you're just not supposed to continue working.
I can't do shit.
You can't. The train can't be moving.
I cannot
Gotcha.
operate. I cannot conduct anything to do. I can't do any work after that 12
and
hours.
that's a transportation regulation.
Yeah, it is.
So what's your turnaround time? How big a window do you get? Like if you work 12 hours, I know there's a maximum amount that you have to
10 hours
in between.
10 hours, and then minute per minute for any time over 12 hours. Okay. So if I've been on duty for 14 hours, I've got 12 hours that they can't call me.
Got it.
Okay. What about breaks? Are there?
There are none.
There are no breaks. Okay, because you're sitting around a lot of time anyway, and that's
there's
just
no
breaks.
The job is a break.
Yeah, got it.
The sitting there staring out the window, not listening to that guy in front of you.
It's unless you're on a yard job where you're building trains and where they have a yard master to directly regulate what you're doing. They'll give you a lunch break for half an hour.
Okay, if you're on the yard, yeah,
if
that makes
you're
sense.
in the yard, but if you're on the train, you got a lunchbox next to you. You can eat whenever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of eating, so we're talking about the inside of the train again, and I don't want to miss out on any of this because I feel like this is an important issue. I want to talk about this toilet thing again.
Oh man,
you really didn't describe it that much. I mean, I was just so I keep thinking about it. Is this like an airplane style kind of bathroom?
Think that.
Okay, but more disgusting.
But Lageroser.
Wow.
What makes it so disgusting?
They don't clean it.
They don't clean it at all.
It's sometimes they come in with like a pressure washer and they spray it down.
Is it running? There's running water. You can wash your hands.
No, there's not.
There's no running water.
No.
So
You don't flush.
Nope. There's a
no
hole.
flush.
Where does it go?
It's like a porta potty.
It's okay. So you can't wash your hands.
No,
But you got to eat.
if you want to.
If
yes.
you want to eat. If you brought your 3 days worth of food with you.
Yeah. So
So you go
bring your
Wow.
wet
Go
wet
through a lot
wipes.
you go through a lot of Purell, huh? Wow.
They
Hand sanitizer.
Hand-
Bring your
That's
hand
what I was
sanitizer. Bring your hand wipes.
But I mean, it seems like
Alcohol wipes.
couldn't you smell that? I mean, would you?
Oh, dude.
So you're smelling that the whole time you're in the train?
It's fucking stinks.
Oh my god.
So
is
there's
terrible.
an unwritten rule that you use the second locomotive if you got to take a shit. You can go piss in the front in the head unit, but you take a shit in there, and the person that you're working with will want to kill you because it'll reek for the rest of that trip.
Even more like being in a jail cell, right?
Right. So, but I mean, it's like a portalet. So let's just say you used it. Do you have to empty it?
No, it's somebody else's job.
When you're in a yard,
Yeah.
yard, right? It's not going to empty it when it's. They just throw it on the
No,
track while
but
it's running.
that's exactly the mentality that everybody has. Is it's not my problem.
It's somebody else's. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
and if you think about it, if you're in the front unit and the train's rocking and moving while you're going down the rail, you got to take a piss. So you whip it out, and I'm not gonna sit down on that damn thing. So
So you're just pissing all over the place.
oh, dude, and you
Oh my
you hit that
God.
turn, and you're like, whoa, shit, and moving around, and like, dude, you are not pissing in that little hole, man. It's
So
like
you-
it's like a
oh my
3-inch diameter little hole in the bottom of this pot. So I mean, everybody's going everywhere. I
So
mean,
even if you take a piss, you smell it the whole time you're in the train.
dude,
Are you serious?
there's a door that you can close,
Oh my god.
but no ventilation, that thing,
no
huh?
ventilation.
Nice.
So let me ask you something at this point. Let's just halt the conversation. So you heard about this career and you wanted it. You willingly.
Hey, the devil's in the details, man. He didn't know.
I did not understand what I was signing up for.
He knew
Fair
nothing
enough.
about
Fair
the
enough.
And
I'll take it.
And where am I now?
Yeah, in case in point, where I was just going to say that. Okay, try to keep us on track here.
All right.
As we at the end of your day, whenever the end of that day comes, where do you stay? Because you're on a train. You're going one direction. You're
Right.
not going home. It ain't a big loop. I mean, it is, but not for your day.
Just to bring it back to the start of my day, because I don't think we ever finished that. I'll get back right to your end of the day because it kind of rolls together. So I get to work. I print up paperwork for my train.
Mm-hmm. What's on the paperwork?
My loads.
His
you know,
loads.
That
the
was bad,
details
Tom.
on the train, the units that what power units I have, what models they are, how much power they have, how much dynamic brake power they have.
Jeez, okay.
I've got to work out my numbers to make sure that I'm within regulation as far as tons per operating brake and all that other.
Does it tell you if you're carrying something
hazardous?
hazardous?
I've got a list of all the hazardous materials that I have. I have to have safety sheets.
Were you given hazmat training?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
What'd you carry that stood out?
Anything crazy?
Nuclear payloads.
Nuclear?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
dude.
Crazy.
Yeah, radioactive casks.
Jeez.
Explosives, jet engines.
So are you told about what's on the load prior to taking the train?
I know what's on the paperwork. I've got a list.
And there's no saying that you're uncomfortable with payload.
No,
You
I
just-
can't do that.
Wow.
That's not an
You
option.
can't say I don't want to ride on a train with nuclear.
Nope.
Man, so what if you get on a
Waste
train
away.
with nuclear payload and you've got this asshole weirdo that's driving it? I mean, God, I could just imagine that weighing on your psyche.
Yeah.
Just thinking about your payload and this guy who could lose it at any moment.
I've
'cause he's
got
been out there on the tracks way too long.
In situations like that, I got my finger on the emergency brake handle, and I am ready to pull that thing if I see anything go wrong.
Wow.
So
So have you ever had any engineers that you were on a train with? You were like seriously like, man, I need to really keep an eye on this guy.
Oh,
Seems a
yeah.
little loopy.
Dude. I mean,
Wow.
there are some of these guys that have, they're special.
We'll get to that in a minute. So continue with the day, the paperwork.
So I print up the paperwork, and then I have to wait for my train to arrive. Because usually they'll call you in so you're there at the depot before your train's ready to depart. Because they
Makes
don't want to be waiting for the crew to arrive. Although half the time it seems to be that way. At least when I'm getting to my home or getting to my trade-off terminal, I'm waiting for a crew to come on duty before it changes out. I'll always be on duty before my train gets there. So
Wow.
just it's the way it seems to work. So wait for my train, however long it takes, then get on the train and go. I've waited for 8 hours in the depot before my train's arrived.
Are you on the clock the whole time?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you're just like hanging out in this room.
I'm
You've
just
already done your paperwork.
I am paperwork's done, stuff's worked out, and
You're
I'm
watching Maury Povich.
I'm sitting around twiddling my thumbs in the depot, watching all these other railroaders do whatever they do.
Wow.
Until the train gets there.
Wow.
And so boring.
Wow.
Get on the train, sit on my ass. So after all this, and assuming nothing goes wrong while on my trip, I arrive at the destination. So back to
My question.
your
End of
question.
day.
End of day. I tie up, which is like clocking out. Then they give me a shuttle ride to the hotel. They put me up in the hotel for a minimum of 10 hours from the time that I tied up. After that 10 hours, I wait for another phone call,
And the whole thing starts over.
and the whole thing starts over
To get back home.
to get back home.
So do they when they send you out, when you go out one way, are you always the next ride going back to where you came from, or can
It's
you go
another
even
board.
further?
So it's a board rotation.
It needs when they need work, when they need help, when they need a crew, then it's the
Yeah.
next.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, I guess my question more so: if they send you out, is your next ride always coming back?
Yes.
Oh,
so
you don't get sent further out?
I won't be sent to a different station.
Oh.
But
you won't go, and you won't go further out.
I won't go further out.
Oh, okay.
So my next trip will be heading back towards my initial destination for
Your-
my departure point.
When you
Back to your home depot.
Right.
when you get the call in the morning, you know where you're going to end up eventually.
Yes.
So you know, like a regular hotel that you're staying at, or
Right.
okay. And I'm imagining these are in really rural areas. These are not like
Yeah, they're not like it's not a downtown situation.
it's like a Motel 6 type thing.
The
But
the
in
hotel that I
middle of
stayed
nowhere.
at in Idaho was right off a freeway off ramp, there was a John Deere tractor retailer right across the street, and a gas station in walking distance ish.
And with no car, you have to reacquire food to build up for another possibly 3-day trip, right? I mean,
Right.
because you got to get back on the train and do the whole thing over again in reverse.
That's part of the reason that I pack for 3 days.
Oh, including the...
Because I'm planning for a trip down, my time in the hotel, and my return trip.
Wow.
Otherwise, I'm hitting up a shuttle driver or calling up a taxi to go get food
From the hotel.
from the hotel.
Wow.
Jeez.
I'm sure it's easy to get a taxi in the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
What's the longest
Awesome.
you've ever spent in a hotel on the
2 days.
2 days?
2 days. Okay.
Wow.
And it's not like you're on call, so it's not like you can go have a drink, party. You
Nope.
can't do anything.
Nope.
Not that there's anybody to party with, but nevertheless, I mean, you can't do anything but sit there and wait. At least you can use your electronics at this point.
Oh, yeah, so I can use my electronics when I'm in my hotel room.
Wow.
Spend a lot of time looking at porn
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
That's a given.
all there is to
That's
do.
a given. Yeah.
Wow.
At least you have Wi-Fi. I mean, at that point.
Supposedly,
Oh man.
Video
'Cause it's
games
so,
and porn, the life of a conductor.
dude. That
That's
Nintendo
like
Switch
truck
was
li-
like a godsend when that came out.
the Nintendo Switch. Oh yeah. Yeah, I bet.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. I want to kind of try and keep this moving. This is going to go a lot longer than we usually do, but this stuff is just too interesting. So let's talk a little bit about some different particulars of the job. I know you had described to me a while ago about the when you first started this, how odd the building of vacation leave, sick leave, that kind of stuff is. Explain how that function works.
Well, again, it's seniority based, but
Okay.
there is you got to put in your time before you get vacation. And
You don't just immediately start building it when you work?
Nope.
Oh, boy.
nope, you have to. There is a mileage quota that you have to meet before you qualify for vacation. So, I had just qualified for 2 weeks of vacation for my next year when I quit.
For your next year.
For my next year.
So you would have had to work another year.
Right.
To
To
get
get 2 weeks of vacation time.
Okay.
That was, and then it's a bid process to find out when your vacation time is. So,
So you don't even get to pick it.
no, you're shafted hard.
Wow. And sick leave. Let's say you caught the flu and you're out for 3 days.
I've got 2 days per year that I can lay
2
off.
days per year.
Yes.
What?
2 days per year that I can lay off without penalty.
I need like 2 days per month because them hangovers get me every Monday.
So, which is part of the reason that I ended up quitting was the attendance policy. I had 3 people in my life that I care about get married that I had to take time off for to go and travel out of state to be with these people on their.
And that counts against your sick days.
Yes, it
Because
does.
you don't have any vacation.
Right, because I used up all my sick days on the first wedding.
But sick days are paid, right?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so can you take time off unpaid?
No. If it's not vacation, it is penalized.
What?
Wow.
So I could lay off, and you can technically take 2 days or a day here or there, but if you take more than like 1 day off a month to do whatever you want to do, it counts against your attendance. And if you acquire a certain amount of strikes, it's termination.
Jeez.
So
Wow.
they are serious hard asses about their attendance policy. And there are other railroads out there that you can work for, when you want to work. And if you got stuff to do, take your time off and go do it.
We got somebody else who'll take your position.
This company is just special.
That's putting it
So,
lightly.
okay, and I'm guessing there's no such thing as paid days off other than your 2 sick days, right? And your vacation after you've worked X
Right.
number of miles.
Right.
And, wow. Okay, how is paid handled? How often are you paid?
Twice per month on the 10th and the 25th.
Okay,
So-
okay.
so-
That's not too bad then.
No,
I mean, it's not like monthly or...
It's by month. Oh, well, you get paid twice a month. So
Yeah, but I mean, some jobs are like my job pays once a month, and then you get used to it after a while. But some people are like, when you go from like weekly to once a month, you're like, holy crap, I got to really budget myself and like figure out how to do this. Like, it's not that bad. But nevertheless, some
but
people
you got to be a little bit more mindful of your finances.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and talk to me about anyway, just briefly. I know this is. I don't want to get too far into this stuff because I think a lot of people might not find it that interesting. But medical benefits, pension, getting raises. Let's just start with medical. Is it good?
So the medical's decent.
Okay, do you get dental, vision? Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Dental, vision, medical. It's okay. It's not amazing.
It's better than nothing.
Better than nothing.
Okay, and pension.
It used to be a damn good paying job, or if you're single, it pays pretty well. But if you're trying to raise a family anymore, it's really not that comparable of an income.
Is there a pension for retirement though?
There is.
Oh, there is.
And the retirement is the only reason to do it.
How many years do you need in to buy?
30.
30. Wow. 30 years of that?
5 years to get vested.
Okay.
But 30 years if you want your full retirement.
Wow. What percentage of your pay is it, or does it work like that? Or?
I'm not sure on those numbers.
No worries. Don't worry. That's details we don't need anyway. But so you're gunning for 30 years,
right,
to get your good pension and get out.
Right.
Jeez.
And if you do that, you're set forever. But
yeah,
and you have to be at least.
If there's anything left,
you have
of
to
you.
be 60 and have had put 30 years in order to pull out full retirement.
Jeez.
Wow. And the way they run you, I mean, I bet the percentage of people who retire from there is really low.
Well, the whole thing is most people that hit retirement age don't live long enough to enjoy it.
Well, yeah. Especially if they just ran you ragged for 30 years.
Yeah.
That kind of lifestyle, yeah. Eating junk food on the go, and yeah. Okay, and pay scales. You're paid whatever you're paid. How do you get raises? How do you go up in pay?
You're there.
That's it.
They've started paying new hires. They pay 75% of what the job pays.
Okay.
And
what, until you prove yourself, or what?
For a year.
Oh,
and then every year they bump you up by 5%.
Okay.
Until you hit 100%, and then that's it.
So 5% increments. They start you at 75% of the normal
of what
pay.
the job pays.
So,
well, at least
5%. That's like 6 or 7 years before you get your regular pay for doing the job you were hired for.
Right.
Well, it's 5 years, right? Because
25%,
5% increase.
5% increases. Yeah.
Okay, so on one side, that kind of sounds ridiculous, but on the other side, at least you're getting like some raises.
They used to just pay 100% from the get go.
Oh,
this is a new thing where they're
saving
now,
money now.
Exactly.
Jeez.
So they're kicking the new hires in the balls for 5 years until they're paying out a standard job price. But once you're at that standard price, that's it. There are no raises. That's what the job pays.
That's it, unless you promote to like engineer or something,
right,
or something else, or in the train yard. Are there positions that you can go for in the yard that are just always in the yard?
Yeah, but those pay less.
They're like dispatcher or something like.
Dispatch.
The guy emptying the toilet bucket.
Right. Those are different crafts.
Those are interns.
So same company, but they have different departments, different crafts. And if you do like an inter-craft transfer, you have got to give up your seniority on the road to.
Oh, you start all over, huh?
Pretty much.
Nice.
Wow. They have got it down to a T to screw people.
Man, they've been doing this for years.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so let's. I wanted to roll that into the people who are controlling this stuff. Let's talk about management. Are there projects, first of all, that you would work on or be a part of? Is it always? It's always riding the train, moving the trains from one place to another. But are there any types of projects that I can't imagine what? But I'm just anything come to mind?
From what my job was to move freight.
Okay.
And
so
that's that.
So your management isn't there's no project management because it doesn't necessarily work that way. It's just management of the employees, you guys.
Right.
Okay. And other than scheduling, what really does your management have to?
The manager doesn't deal with scheduling.
So what does your manager do?
Writes people up, finds infractions. They'll organize. So you have some yard managers which are aware of what needs to go where, and they'll direct a crew to switch out certain trains or keep a train yard organized. And outside of that, they are testing and trying to penalize and write up employees for infractions.
So that's their job, basically.
Their job is to be pricks, essentially.
Wow.
Just mess people up with citations.
And there's a quota. They have to meet a certain. They have to write up a certain amount of people. Otherwise, they get written up for not doing their job.
Unbelievable.
Because if they're not finding problems, they're not looking hard enough.
Are they paid more?
No.
They're not.
No.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
They get a better retirement deal, though.
Huh.
Because a lot of these guys that go into managers have already become vested in train service. And then they go in to a manager position, and they make manager retirement on top of their railroad retirement.
Wow.
So they're double dipping on their retirement, but they're making less as far as like a monthly rate.
Wow.
All right, infractions. Let's talk about that. What kind of things were common for infractions? I mean, I know there's probably a million of them, but what did you commonly? Did you ever get an infraction?
Me personally?
Yeah.
No, dude, I'm awesome.
So what kind of things would people get infractions for that were common, not like the crazy ones?
Taking a step backwards.
Oh, sorry. That one again.
That one again. There was red zone violations are pretty big. That's a fireable offense.
What's a red? That was
The red zone is the safety protocol in between the engineer and conductor to when you're stepping in between potential pinch points.
Oh, okay.
Like when you're climbing across equipment.
What we were talking about earlier. Okay,
Right.
got it.
So
But that's on so that would mean that the engineer is the one turning you in for that, right?
the managers are listening to radio chatter and are
Well, they have
literally
that- that's a
out
camera.
in a car with a set of binoculars watching you work.
Oh boy.
There's a
they're
running
trying to-
joke about the manager in the bushes because there are literally managers hiding in the bushes watching you do your shit.
Dude,
Wow.
that's insane. Because they're trying to not lose their job by not giving infractions.
Right. So they'll go through
dude.
and like
Nice way to beat your employees to death.
yes.
What a horrible working environment.
It was
that.
awful.
So nobody's friends with anybody.
No, they actively cultivate animosity.
Oh boy.
So the managers will put switch tags, little magnetic yellow, little yellow magnets in between points of a rail to to see that you're checking what's in between the switches when you line them. And if you didn't, there's a citation.
Just
There's-
messing
So
with
basically,
you.
they can entrap you.
Yes,
They're entrapment.
And then,
That's
yeah.
what they're looking for.
totally.
Oh my god,
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
If you don't stop, look left, look right, and wait, and before you cross the track, there's a write-up. If you...
And so in infractions, they're just they go on your record, and
Totally.
and that's it. So how many do you?
It depends on the level.
So they have different levels.
They have a level system, right?
Oh, of
so
course they do.
So
things
there's a
are
red, a blue, a green. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
They're
it's
colored
This is
or
so
it's
ridiculous.
numbers,
numerical. Okay.
right? So attendance, that'll give you 1 strike, right? And if you hit 5, you hit a level 5, you're done. That's termination. Level 4 is next step is you're done. So 1's a warning, 2 is a slap on the wrist, 3 is a watch your shit, 4 is you're about to lose your job, and 5 is you're gone.
Wow.
So you take too many days off. There's 1. You
Get a red zone violation.
Red zone violation. That's an instant level 5.
That's instant level 5.
What?
Wow.
Red zone violation. They don't mess around with that.
Because you
Wow.
could die. Basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way people die.
Wow.
You're riding the car wrong. There's an infraction.
Riding.
So you can't like climb on top and pretend you're in a
Oh,
007 movie and
No.
Can
going
you,
to the
you
tunnel,
can
you
actually get on
drop
top of
down.
them, though, right?
Yeah.
You can. Okay.
Well,
they don't.
That's where
you're not
that's where they have
allowed
the
to.
Yeah.
Ben. That's where they have the fight scenes.
That's where you go up there and do
Right.
the kung fu scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
If you are carrying your brake stick wrong, there's a write-up. If you there's
Just a million of them.
there,
For all
there's
the
there's
rules and regulations.
thousands. I mean, look how thick that book is. Which is, I'm serious.
Inches.
This book is like 2.5 inches thick.
And thin paper.
There's like
no doubt.
11 pages of anything worth reading. Everything
Right.
else is just
But
a F you.
anything that you do wrong in that is a
write-up.
write-up.
Wow.
Jesus.
Okay, little different direction then. And I don't want to get into unions in general, but
Yeah.
how good is what does the union do for you? And
Jack shit.
nothing.
They-
And
so-
how often do they argue MOUs for the employees, for the workers?
The unions, it depends. I mean, each local branch is a little different because they are run by employees.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, really?
Right.
Okay.
Uh,
That's
and,
good.
And your local guys will typically fight for you on attendance violations or random other write-ups. They'll try to half-ass attempt to
help you out.
Defend you.
But I mean, it's not really there.
Wow. Are you paying a union due?
Oh, absolutely.
How much does union do? Do you remember?
It depends on the union you're in.
Oh, okay.
You have a choice?
Yes, there's there's a conductors union and then an engineers union. As a conductor, you can join the engineers union, but you don't get to vote.
Okay.
However, the conductors union has a clause in their union that if you don't vote, the union can count it as an automatic yes vote.
Nice.
Awesome.
So
nice. So they just use that to their advantage.
They just use that, and
weird.
It's the unions are sellouts. They've
that's too
in the
bad.
last 15 years they've sold out more benefits and whatnot. They've
but they're still collecting their dues.
Oh yeah, of course.
Of course they are. Oh yeah, that's not going to stop.
So
okay, yeah, I don't want to get too into unions.
Well, so just like interview, it was my fascination with trains has always been more mechanical things. And one time, we were talking about this, and I thought it was really crazy, and I was wondering if you'd elaborate a little bit more on this. You had talked one time about how when a train goes into a tunnel, something about it suffocating or losing oxygen or something.
So locomotives are giant diesel motors, right? They're diesel generators. But there are some train tunnels, like in California, which are up through like the Sierra Nevadas, that are extremely long. And each of these locomotives, if you imagine 5 locomotives on the front, and then you have a center pack that's got 3 or 4 other locomotives, and then more on the back. And you're only traveling at like 25 mile an hour top going up these hills. And each of these locomotives is pushing out quite a bit of exhaust. These motors are giant. They're larger than I am tall. They're huge.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're pushing out this diesel exhaust, which is pushing the air out of these caves or these tunnels. And so it's filling up this tunnel with
exhaust
fumes. Mm-hmm. And if you follow a train in, so if you had a long train go through a tunnel and you roll through with another train that's decently length, there is not enough oxygen left in the tunnel to combust the fuel to power your generator. Your locomotives will literally stall. But
are you out of oxygen?
They have oxygen masks and tanks on board for these situations.
Wow.
So that if you are in a locomotive that is going through this area and it stalls, you have a breathing apparatus you have to put in because there's not enough air to breathe.
Wow.
So how much air do you have? Hour, half hour?
Something like that.
Oh, and
it's starting to be like a coal miner or something job now.
What can you do to clear out the tunnel? I mean, how can you just have to wait?
Turn it off and wait.
Just wait.
Just wait for there to clear.
And hope that you don't run out of air in the side.
It usually takes like 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Wow. So have you ever been on one that stalled?
I haven't. I haven't worked in that territory, but my friend who
tricked you into the job.
Yeah, he has and has experienced this and has told me in detail about it.
That seems really scary because obviously it's dark.
That's a crazy concept to think. Yeah, they're not lit in the tunnels, right? There's no electricity through them. That's a crazy concept to think about, that there's not enough oxygen for the engine to continue running. And they don't have any batteries or anything on the locomotive to keep it running without the diesel engine.
No. Without the
it's a straight direct drive right off the engine into the generator.
Wow. You would think that they would install some sort of like fresh air or something in some of these tunnels or something.
Well, these tunnels are hundreds of years old. Man.
That's true.
I mean, they're really old.
Wow.
And then
that just freaked me out. I was like, man, I thought about that. And it's like suffocating. It's like you're going into this area where you're running out of oxygen and just suffocate.
Yeah. I mean, think about the guys that carved these tunnels out in the first place. How many Chinese workers died cutting these things out?
A lot. Yeah, a lot.
Thousands. Wow.
Okay, that's a good segue into the next little section here I wanted to get into. Tell us about some of the crazy things that you've seen while you were in your time out there. You had mentioned
hobo sex.
Splat.
Yeah. That was the big thing.
How many animals have you killed
animals,
on the rails?
Tell us about animals
in a day, or
how about it in a single trip? Let's say
single trip. The most that I've killed in a day was 7.
7.
Jesus.
7 what?
There was a a cluster of raccoons sitting at the base of this like crossing.
Raccoons?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, and they were sitting there. I mean, the whole family of them. And
Wow.
they, we come up and we flash our lights and honk at them, and they just kind of sat up and looked at us and went, splatted them all.
Wow.
Other than that, I killed 5 deer in a single shot.
Wow.
That was kind of entertaining. It was just,
I remember
bam,
when you,
bam, 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 bam.
That's horrible.
What a
So-
waste.
Wow.
You can't even get the meat or anything.
Oh no, it's totally
I mean,
spoiled. The organs
oh.
rupture, and
Okay.
all those
Wow.
toxins flood the.
So do you have a little windshield wiper that just washes off of?
Probably not high enough, right?
Well,
Does anything get up to you at all?
Cows do.
Oh,
Oh, man.
man.
Tell us about the cows.
Cows are water balloons.
Ugh.
They're all stomach, and
Oh.
when you hit them straight on, they explode.
Oh.
That's brutal.
So so it gets up to where you're at.
Oh, dude. So
Because you're right in the front.
if you ever see like a Union Pacific locomotive sitting on the side of the road, and you notice that the front half of it is kind of brown looking.
It's not yellow, it's brown.
Yeah, it's kind of brown. Looks like it's got a bunch of like raindrop spots all over it. That's a cow.
Jeez.
Wow. Jeez.
That's
so just
insane.
destroy. I mean, it just explodes.
Oh, I mean, just we're talking like
Evaporate, huh? The first time you told me about deers, I was thinking I thought that kind of surprised me. I didn't grow up around deers, and my experience with deer is that they are is that they are extremely fast. I mean, they can get away from you real quick, but
they
that's
are
a-
also extremely dumb.
You ever heard the term a deer in headlights?
Yeah, I mean, well, but he said even in the date, that's the first thing I thought of. So, well, maybe the headlights getting them and they're freaking out and they're just sitting there taking it. But he says even in the daylight.
Oh, yeah.
I would think
Yeah,
they
they're
would
pretty dumb.
get
So-
out of the way.
I don't really know what's going on, but I think it's something to do with shadows and
It
that-
throws
that-
them off or something, huh?
But I've had a middle of the day deer come down the hill and it sees us, turns around and starts running back up, and then I don't know if the shadow spooked it, but then it turned around and came back in and hit the second locomotive back.
Just ran right into it.
right into it.
Wow.
And I watched it run. I mean, I'm looking into my mirror like, oh, deer, miss. Okay, cool. Look in the mirror and I see it run right into the second unit. It's like, are you serious?
That's weird. That's bizarre. What about bears? Do they ever?
They get cut in half pretty easy.
So they wow, they hit bears too, huh?
Oh yeah, bear,
Jeez.
moose, elk,
Anything out there, huh?
anything that's on the track.
Wow.
And what about people? So if there's cows, I mean, obviously those are owned by cattle ranches, right? I mean, they don't do anything to keep their cows off. They don't lose enough, or what?
So, the railroad will typically pay out a specific amount if it kills livestock. They'll actually pay for the livestock killed, unless they can prove that the rancher was luring their cattle out to get killed, to get paid out, which they do.
I'm sure.
Because some years the price of beef's down. They're trying to make their money, and the railroad's paying out this guaranteed amount for the number of cattle killed. Ranchers will open up holes in their fence and push the cows out so they get hit by the train.
Oh my goodness,
Wow.
this is ridiculous.
Let's see.
This whole industry has a whole new meaning to me.
Whole
at this point.
industry is ridiculous.
I've hit a horse.
Aw.
Was anybody riding it?
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah. Okay. So what about people? How does this work?
People are a mess.
Okay. Actually, wait. Before you go into that, how about in order of brutality, we probably should have started. What about vehicles?
Vehicles, trains win.
Is it a common thing?
Oh, dude.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is it a common thing? People trying to run the tracks, or
People are idiots. Do not underestimate the stupidity of
Trust me, I
humanity.
do not, Glenn. Every day.
Stop signs at these tracks. People get in habits of, rolling through a stop sign. The California stop.
Yeah.
They roll up, they do a quick glance and look and go. They don't see the headlight. I don't know why they don't see the headlight, but they just choose to ignore it. They're in this. People get in this pattern of, oh, it's clear, without really registering what.
Well, it's the same people who, as soon as the green light turns green, they just go.
Right.
When the light turns green, I step back for just a second. I look both ways. I
Totally.
go, all
Look
right.
for the red light runner.
Exactly.
Always.
Always. Yep.
Yeah. You want to hear a crazy train story of my life?
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay. So when I was about 17, I lived with my brother in northern Indiana, and there are a ton of trains. The city was called Goshen, Indiana. There's so many trains that go through this little bitty town that they actually had to build a bypass bridge so the residents would not constantly sit stopped at railroad tracks. So it's a really big thing in this area. People got hit by trains all the time.
Wow.
And I was kind of freaked out by it when we moved up there. And so I'm partying with this buddy of mine, and all I'm going to say is I went to him with his AA meeting, and we hooked up with some other stuff. And later on that night, we're let's just say we're tripping a little.
Yeah.
And I'm in the passenger seat. And all I remember is listening to Rain and Blood from Slayer, as loud as it would possibly go. I was just seeing colors and weird things floating around. And we approached one of those railroad tracks. And I just started screaming, stop, stop. And I'm yelling. And I watched us drive into the side of the train.
It was stopped there?
No, we just drove into it while the train was going like 80 miles an hour.
Wow.
And we just drove through the train. And I just screamed and freaked out and basically tried to jump out of the car because I was tripping balls. And the whole time my buddy's looking over at me just laughing and laughing. But it freaked me the hell out, man, because I was so afraid of the trains anyway. And there were so many trains out there. And it was just some sort of weird thing that was stuck in my head, and it all played out while I was tripping one night.
Wow.
And
That's horrible. Bad trip, dude.
It was
it's
a
bummer, man.
bad trip. But the thing about it is from that point forward, if I come anywhere near a train or a train track, I am like
Got left the lasting impression, huh?
Oh my! I am crazy cautious about anything going on.
And the ironic thing about that, guys, is we're in a warehouse that's right along the railroad tracks.
The building shakes.
Yeah, and that's where Thomas hangs out. Spends most of his time.
Hey,
but I don't trip and drive around in cars and listen to Slayer
That's
anymore.
probably a good thing. Okay, so okay, so vehicles, people, various reasons they're on there, and of course, I'm sure they don't stand a chance against the trains anyway.
Well, there's this concept that's being portrayed in media and videos of, people pulling out and train coming to a stop before it hits them. Look at it, Breaking Bad. They did this thing where they had a.
Oh yeah, I remember that. And they took all the what chemical has that been that they drained out of that? There's something they needed to make.
I remember the scene, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, anyway, but they pulled the
yeah.
car in front of the tracks and they had the train stop before it hits.
Yeah.
So if you have a train, say it's a mile and a half long, which is about average, and you're traveling about 35 miles an hour, and oh shit, I gotta stop. It takes about a mile to come to a stop.
Wow.
A mile.
I probably almost would think it'd be more.
That's far.
Long
time.
So to have somebody run out and be like, "Oh, don't hit us," it ain't happening. You're done. I can throw my brakes and I'll smear you aside the road, drag your car 3/4 of a mile before I even slow down enough for you to fall off the front end.
Coming behind you.
Wow.
And that may actually contribute to the fact that so many people drive their cars or try to cut off trains or don't pay attention because they see it in the movie and they're like, "Oh, it can stop."
Right.
I mean, people are that stupid.
They are.
It happened on Breaking Bad.
Right.
Wow. All right. People.
What
about people? You hit them?
I've come close 3 times. I have not personally witnessed somebody die on the train.
Okay.
So happy
That's good.
about that.
Yeah, you're lucky.
I'm thrilled to get out before they happen.
But it does happen to people.
If you stay in the business or in the industry, by the time you retire, there's an 80% chance that you've killed more than one family.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Damn,
Wow.
that's heavy.
In the time that I was working there, there was one guy that killed 3 people in 3 different instances.
What? Well, it's not like he can do anything. It's not like his fault. He can't do anything about these people don't get off the track or they're not paying attention or, I mean, how does that go though? I mean, why are they on the track?
Usually it's a vehicle issue, or not like a mechanical issue, but just dumb drivers.
Yeah.
People want to pull out around crossing gates. When the crossing gate is down, do not. It is not worth it.
Right.
You know what? If that train is rolling slow, comes to a stop, blocks the intersection for 45 minutes before it moves, at the end of the day, you're still alive.
Yeah.
It's
right.
Be trying to beat it is not worth it.
Or suicide.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Native Americans are the most likely person in the western United States to get hit by a train. A lot of suicides, alcohol.
Yeah, I remember hearing a lot of stories about drunk people either passing out, walking the rails, and they pass out, they trip, fall, hit their heads, then they're on the rail.
Wow.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Homeless. are also a pretty big one because they'll try to camp out in the boxcar or hang out in the yard or something like that.
Fall down, get clipped.
Wow. So Joe had mentioned. I wanted to ask about that. So if you're laying on the track, is it possible to have the train actually roll over you and not die? Like can you
like in the movies?
Yeah, like can you lay down flat and survive that?
The look on his face is priceless.
Well, I mean, the cow catcher's going to shred you, right?
So it depends on how thick you are.
Like thicker than 3 sheets of paper, probably not.
So if from your back to your front, you are less than 6 inches tall or 6 inches wide,
thick or whatever,
6 inches thick, and there's nothing hanging down on the train, including the air hoses, which hang in between each rail.
Yeah.
There is a chance that you might be able to survive.
Wow.
So
Now,
that's
So your answer is no way.
You're fucking done.
you're dead.
But I think Jean-Claude Van Damme did that.
No.
A couple times at least,
We did actually have an incident where this guy came out, stumbling, jumped out in front of the train, got hit. Mind you, the train was moving very slow.
Okay.
At the time that this incident happened, they were going under 10 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So they hit the guy, threw the brakes, emergency. It knocked him forward, and then the train rolled over the top of him. But the dude was rail thin and, climbed out from underneath the tracks. Just some bruises.
Wow.
Fucking survived it, walked away.
That's insane.
Wow.
I mean, the guys on board were convinced they killed somebody.
Wow.
And the guy gets up and starts cussing at them for hitting them with the train. And,
Like they could do
and
anything
they're
about
like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Some tweaker.
Pretty much.
Jeez.
Nice.
Okay, is there we're gonna get away from that now. Is there any anything come to mind like the worst damage you've ever seen to a train, or did you ever see any bad accidents?
Head-on-head collisions are pretty gnarly.
Whoa.
Did you saw some of those?
We had a personally no.
Mm-hmm.
You don't survive them.
Oh wow. That's a lot of force going into it. Wow. Would
Oh,
you
yeah.
see the damaged vehicles, cars back at the train yard, or?
I've seen damaged cars
Okay.
back. I've seen videos of train collisions. I've seen the stack ups from derailments. And it's gnarly.
Wow.
That is not a thing that
Wow.
you consider lightly. We had somebody on the siding. So it's where there's two tracks. Well, a one-way track with a side portion of track that's running beside it that has an entrance and an exit onto the main track, where they'll pull a train over to let another train go by. And so they were facing one direction, and a train coming the other direction. And one of the cars towards the rear of the train split the switch, which means that the points on the end of the switch weren't meshed up well, and the little flange on the inside of the wheel caught and pulled the track onto the siding course, which made it swing wide and broke it open, and that car got dragged into the head of the other locomotive.
Wow.
And the guys actually jumped out of the car or out of the train
To live.
Wow.
to live. Yeah. But they saw it coming, and they're like, "Shit!
I'm out of here."
And they literally jumped out of the engineer side.
Wow. How fast do you think the thing was moving when they jumped? Because they're in a yard at that point, right?
No, they were on the road, but they were on the
okay.
mountain.
Okay.
So it was probably going like 15 miles an hour, something like that.
Wow.
But still,
That's enough to kill
They
them.
had enough time to move, but still, that would have done some damage.
Wow. Yeah, they probably got killed.
Those guys survived.
No,
But-
what
but
Well, I
they
mean, if
stayed
had they
in
got
it?
Have they stayed in? Yeah, they were.
Wow.
Okay, so that leads into another question. I want to talk to us about derails. Like how often-
Derailments?
Derailment. Thank you.
They're extremely common.
Okay.
They have.
Why?
You got to look at how a train works. All that's holding a train on rail is gravity. You have a lot
It's
of
just
mass.
the weight, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of mass, a lot of weight. The cars are sitting on a kingpin. So you have your wheels and an axle. You have a truck that's sitting on top of those with a little spring cushion.
Yep.
They're not really bolted in. It's just kind of sitting there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's a pin in the middle of the truck where the car is set on. There's no bolt, no nut that's holding it together. It's just weight.
Wow.
So, a bunch of these, and then they're all pulled by this,
It's a very barbaric setup.
It's old school.
This is
Primitive.
1800s technology here. Yeah, I remember I used to when I was touring, we used to play at this club all the time, and it was right across the street from a train yard. And I would always go walk around and check out some of the train stuff. And they would always have the axles laying out, like new axles they were getting ready to swap over. And you'd have like the bushing sets, and you'd have that, whatever that piece is that the wheels go into. Like I saw a couple of those laying around, and they had like this crane where they would do maintenance for them and stuff. But yeah, just standing next to that, a set of wheels, it's just this giant axle. It looks like it's spun out of one continuous piece of metal. And it's probably 4,000 pounds or something at least.
Something like that.
Wow.
Jeez.
So derailments happen in
switching operations.
okay.
You got a lot of people that are not paying a whole lot of attention. They'll line the switch the wrong way, pull a train the wrong direction on a switch, causes it to drop in between the rail. That's a derailment. You have...
Where's the guy writing the infraction?
Believe
there
me,
probably is.
somebody got fired for that.
Wow.
It happens all the time. You have, when you're switching and putting trains together, might be cooking a little too quick. They hit, pops up, and comes down off the rail. Taking a curve a little too tight. You're pulling too hard on one side, or not pushing on the back end when you go around a curve. It's like a string. If you put a string in a curve and pull one end, what happens?
Oh yeah.
The string straightens out.
Yeah.
Well, same thing happens with a train. If it's on a curve, it'll pop off the rail.
Wow.
So having that other train, or the ones in the middle or something, that kind of breaks that up because it keeps more of a constant pressure.
Exactly.
So they can they have to remotely control and adjust those other train speeds, right?
Right, and that's
other
controlled
locomotives.
from,
I'm sorry,
That's
locomotives.
controlled from the head end. So the engineer actually has a switch where they can flip to set what unit they're controlling.
Oh.
So they can so the rear units, they can say, I need you guys to pull a notch 5 while I'm pulling at a notch 4 for this. So it's pushing harder than you're pulling, so that it doesn't bunch the same way. Or
so you really got to know the terrain and what's coming up with your
Absolutely.
curves and
Because you're adjusting that all the time while you're running.
yes.
Oh.
So that takes some paying attention.
Yeah, that does.
Definitely can't be texting during that.
No, you got to think about that while you're doing it.
Sending dick pics.
There's oh God.
To the hobos. All right. What about any notable scenery? Was that cool? I mean, did you see any beautiful stuff or out there in the middle of nowhere?
So on my routes, there was some beautiful scenery in North Idaho, going up to like Canada.
Oh, okay.
From Spokane up towards Eastport.
Okay.
Some gorgeous scenery up that way. The Blue Mountains were pretty cool.
Okay.
But a lot of my trek was through the desert,
Oh, wow.
and that gets pretty old
Yeah.
because
Wow.
there's not a lot to look at.
Jeez.
And warm.
And warm.
Wow.
Wow.
Except
Or
in winter.
cold.
Or in the winter, yeah.
Or cold. I was
freezing
gonna say, is
cold,
this
yeah.
high desert where it's cold, or
Yep,
is it?
this is high altitude desert
Fun.
where it was, 112 in the summer and negative 17 in the winter.
Nice.
What the heck? Boy, that's weird. Yeah,
Wow.
that's extreme. And is there cooling in the locomotive? You mentioned there's heat things that can keep you.
If you're lucky,
Oh boy.
there's usually a fan.
So it just blows the smell of that urine from the bathroom.
Yeah, I
all
was
that.
just recirculates the air.
You can make sure you get a whiff of that. Everybody gets a good whiff of that consistently.
Did you ever just have somebody you didn't like working with, you just keep turning the fan towards them?
Can you open a window to get fresh air in if you wanted to?
Yes, you can.
You can. Wow.
I spent most of my time hanging out that window,
Wow.
even when it was raining or snowing or anything, because you could actually breathe.
Wow.
Oh boy.
Jeez.
All right.
Sounds awesome.
And then, when you end up walking to that cab that had that hobo sex party going on beforehand, and you can still smell it.
You open the window in there.
Oh, yeah. So,
Jesus. I'm surprised you guys didn't have just like smoke bombs you could throw into something just to clear the smell.
I used to carry a can
Febreze.
of, it was actually orange oil, like citrus oil.
Oh,
Smelled like oranges.
yeah.
I used to go in and spray down the cab with that before
there
I
you
got it, before we set up.
Dang, man.
Wow.
Obviously, Glenn, you weren't made for the job, buddy. Because you're supposed to like that man Musk.
Aren't you supposed to just
boy.
like eat with your hands and touch everything while
Oh,
you're
yeah.
in there?
Oh, dude. There are some of the people up there are gross.
I'm sure.
I mean, you got people that will pick up stuff off the floor of these cabs, which, if you think about this, the bathroom's downstairs. Stepping in that, you know you're stepping in urine, or, at the best of...
At the best.
At the
Best
best,
case
you're
scenario.
stepping in
and you're
urine.
walking through that to get into where you're the actual cabin.
To get to your cabin, you got people that are picking up food off the floor to
Nice.
eat, and then you got the hobo sex party going on in the seat that you're now sitting in, and I carried around a pack of like bleach wipes that I wiped down the seat, the desk, the radio every time I got in there.
Hell yeah, I would have too.
Ben would have been crazy on the OCD on that.
no,
He would have walked out first day.
He would have been trying to lay a carpet over the space between the toilet or something.
On a different note. All right, I want to kind of get to the end of this here, and I got a couple of just random general questions for you. If you guys got anything too, we'll get to that. Can you think of just like a single thing that was like that you liked the most of the job and the experience? It could have been maybe the part of the job or just something that happened, or I don't know. Was there
The
day he quit.
The day I
Right.
quit was a highlight. Yes, true story. However, the perspective that you have from the train is unique.
Okay.
You are
I can see
higher
that.
off the ground than any other. I mean, you're looking over the top of a semi-truck's trailer. You know, when you're next to them.
You're like 15, 16 feet up or something.
Right. So you have a higher vantage point, and you go through terrain that is not suitable for vehicles. So you get to see a portion of the countryside that you would otherwise have no access to. And I found that pretty cool.
That's why I've always wanted to take Amtrak somewhere so that I could see that kind of stuff.
I'd say do it.
Okay, that's really cool.
And at the same time, you get to slay Bambi left and right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now that's okay. So is there something that stood out that you absolutely hated? I mean, among
I think
among
there
all
was about 100.
was there just something that was just the absolute worst that was like almost a deal breaker for you?
Aside from really my issue with the job was the management.
The management. That's what I was
It
thinking.
was
you were gonna say.
the attendance policy, the managers, the
the
way
ownership of you.
the way they ran the business was my issue. The job itself, honestly, yeah, it's time consuming. You don't have much of a life outside of it, but really, it's not that bad.
So why didn't you switch to another company that you were saying treats our people better?
Who says I'm not trying?
Oh, okay. No, we hadn't talked about that before. So
Hush your mouth, Ben.
No, honestly,
After this interview, no one's going to hire him.
right. No,
What's this guy's
it
name
was
again?
it was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd do it again.
Yeah.
There's more that I want to do with my life than sit on the train.
Gotcha.
But wouldn't working for like an Amtrak or something like that be a totally different experience?
Sure, if I had a regular Monday through Friday gig with set hours, oh, dude, I'd be all over it.
We could go. Okay. I'm just asking this because I don't know. With the experience you have, does it make it more feasible or give you a upper hand if you wanted to apply for jobs, say running the subway trains or something in like San Francisco or something?
Potentially. I haven't honestly looked into it, so I can't.
I mean, because it's all transportation, it's all rail transportation.
Right.
And
I mean,
I would think that the experience you have probably is a lot higher than what
I've got 3 years of freight handling experience, which I'm sure counts for something.
yeah.
Huh. But you have no interest in any of those.
Not really.
Okay.
I'm
just asking.
on to new explorations.
There
at
you
this
go.
point.
Hey, new endeavors in life. Tell us real quick about cabooses.
The caboose.
The caboose.
Because that doesn't exist anymore.
It does not.
Okay.
It is
What was it for? Why doesn't it exist
So-
now?
Probably had a clean bathroom.
back in the day. The conductor used to ride on the rear of the train.
Okay.
So from start to finish, the conductor was always in the back on the caboose with the brakeman, and then there was an engineer and fireman up front, maybe a third guy in the back. I think it was a 5-man crew. So 2 guys in the front of the train, 3 guys in the back of the train.
Mm-hmm.
So one guy that would go line a switch, another guy that would man another switch when they were doing switching, and then the conductor was organizing the operation. And also they'd use a lantern to flag the head end. So the trains were shorter, and they have lantern signals that they use to communicate from the front to the back.
Yeah.
The conductor's in charge of that. So
This is like so they could only communicate on a curve, or they would like hold it out of the window.
They'd hold it out.
Oh, and they
so they literally lean out. So they'd hold one arm onto a guide rail on the rear of the caboose.
Wow.
And they'd lean out and hold the lantern out and do whatever signal they needed to do
Wow.
to communicate.
That sounds safe.
Oh yeah, that's. But at the time,
Watch out for
standard.
that tree.
Yeah, it was standard practice.
in this point in time, the life expectancy for a railroader was about 5 years.
Oh wow.
Jeez.
Seriously.
Wow. That's
So-
amazing.
And brakes were tied on the top of the train, and so you're climbing up to the top and running
Jeez.
around.
Oh.
And all sorts of monkey business going on. Plus, everyone's drunk, doing lines of coke off the dashboard. And
Right. So you should have got the job then.
yeah,
You're just
before
born
I
in-
was born.
You're born in the wrong time, buddy.
So, but when they eliminated the jobs, right? Because they've cut down to a 2-man crew. They got rid of the caboose because they don't need somebody back there anymore. Everything's done operated from the head end, and now with rear end units like the DPU, which is the locomotive on the rear, or they'll have a box that on the back of the train that is hooked up to the airline that reads the brake line pressure and sends a communication back to the head end to say that there's airflow throughout the entire train. So they don't need somebody on the back to watch because they have
Yeah, they just
other-
automate stuff
Right.
now, and
Yeah.
So that's why there's no more cabooses, huh?
Right.
But that's what they used to do. That's cool.
that was their old purpose. Now they do still have some that they'll use as a crew hauler. Like
Crew hauler.
yeah, like when there's a bunch of snow on the rail, roads are closed, and they need to move a crew, they'll go hook up to an old caboose in the yard and drag a crew out to the change station.
You're kidding.
Wow.
What's in it? What's in like is it chairs or?
Yeah, some chairs.
It's more of those
And that's it.
crappy
It's-
plastic chairs.
Is there a bathroom in it?
Nope.
No. Wow. So that's a not a good trip to take.
That's an ice box.
Wow.
That's a nice box. Wow, that's nuts.
Awesome.
Okay.
Wow.
Tell me.
Just changed my opinion completely.
I know the last thing I want to talk about here, unless that I have anyway. Anything about the Omaha headquarters? Have you seen it? Have you seen pictures?
I've seen pictures.
Okay, you never been there.
It's a bunker.
Is it like hidden in a mountain?
It's underground. It's literally
underground.
It is literally a bunker.
Wow.
It's like NORAD kind of stuff.
Totally. You can bomb their main headquarters, and the train operations would still be maintained because they are under, I don't know how many tons of concrete.
Wow.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah, no, it's like literally.
And that's just Union Pacific, or is that?
That's Union Pacific's.
So
Okay.
do all train companies have some sort of central command like that?
Yes.
Wow.
So
Do they communicate with other railroad companies?
yeah, they do.
Okay.
And a lot of railroad companies will share rails. So like
Okay.
Union Pacific.
Yeah.
So like up in Washington,
Mm-hmm.
there's a Union Pacific yard that runs from Spokane up to Eastport. However, they don't own rail that attaches to the yards that feed that Spokane yard.
Yeah. Okay.
There's BNSF owns the track in between.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to communicate with BNSF's dispatcher
okay.
in order to get permission to operate through their section
Sure.
of rail.
Make sure it's cleared and yeah.
Right.
Wow.
To get back to our part of the track. And our dispatchers will call their dispatchers to work things out, to get track warrants, which
Wow.
are reports of rail conditions, essentially.
Wow.
Weird.
So it's
crazy.
this
Very
weird,
interesting.
incestuous.
It blows my mind that the whole thing even works.
Yeah.
You know, especially after this
That's
conversation.
because they've had so much time to put it together.
Yeah,
right?
no,
And
I
they
mean,
still
yeah.
haven't figured it out.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, you think about I mean, obviously there's trains everywhere and tracks everywhere and stuff, but it blows my mind that there's not more head-on collisions like every other day.
Oh, there used to be. Back when lanterns were the way they operated things. And this new positive train control thing that's supposed to be implemented is supposed to help out with that too.
Well, you know what's crazy? I saw a show recently that talked about the Dubai airport, and they were talking about how they handled the luggage. And it reminded me a lot of trains because they built this like billion-dollar or multi-billion-dollar train system inside the Dubai airport that is used for moving luggage around. So when you go to, say I walk in, I got a carry-on, or not carry-on, but I say I want to check a bag. no matter what airline it is, it goes into the system, and each piece of luggage goes on its own separate cart on this track.
Wow.
And each one of those gets a signal, like a little box that tells you what it is and its information, and the computer inside of it, as it passes around, it reads these little sensors to monitor where everything's at. At any point in time, they can tell where the system is. And it's like 300 miles of track or some crazy thing inside this airport. I'm not kidding you. It's unbelievable. Look it up. But so they have like these stations inside there where they'll, if you're like, say you get there early and your plane doesn't take off for 4 hours, it goes into a holding cell. And so it's like a little station where they put the train over, and each piece of luggage has its own little cart. So when it comes time, that thing sets a signal and says, okay, this needs to be over gate A6, and it moves over and things like that. But I started thinking about that as far as like the way the trains work out. And it seems like that would be a legitimate way to sort of handle some of the trains.
It sounds like the hump yard.
Is that kind of what that is?
So I'd imagine, from what you're describing, I'd imagine that each item put on a cart that is essentially a rail car, and then it's put into a holding track. So I imagine every bag that is marked for that plane goes into the same track. Yeah. So it's all lined up.
Yeah.
And so that sorting thing is the same.
It's sorting them consistently because the way they showed it is every cart is moving around consistently until it deciphers, well, this one needs to be pulled out and held. And then they start grouping them together as held, and then that drops it in. But it was an amazing, I mean, if you like engineering, look up the Dubai baggage handling.
I'll check it out.
That's pretty cool. I'd like to see that too. I hadn't heard that before. Yeah. Well, anyone else got any last minute questions here? Because we are...
we're out of time.
This is the longest one we've ever done so far, but there was just too much to cover. I hope you guys all found that as interesting as we did, and you can understand now after almost 2 hours why we felt we had to cover that one. And
play safe.
Yeah, exactly. Till next time. Thank you for listening. Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address, greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com, or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.